The night that Proposition 8 passed, it was like an irony that was so great. And I have this cartoon actually that was later put in one of the local papers about, it has this couple saying, gee, now that we have an African-American president, there's no more discrimination in this country. And then in the background, there's a little water fountain that is like labeled gays and one that's labeled straights. When the anti-marriage, anti-gay advocates claim that children need protection from gay people or from gay couples or from gay marriage or from the idea that we have loving relationships, I find it deeply offensive. And partly the reason that I do is because I'm a parent. But I'm a parent because Carol and I chose to become parents to a child who had been brought into the world by a heterosexual couple and wasn't well cared for and was in fact neglected. And there's nothing about sexual orientation that bears on a person's ability to parent. There just isn't. And there's nothing about, children need protection from being raised to believe that differences in people mean you should demean somebody or hate them or treat them differently. That's what they need protection from. Gay people have to band together with other groups that are in need of political support in order to get anywhere. We're a tiny fraction of the population, just as many other targeted minorities are small fractions of the population. We're an even smaller one. And when we don't get together with them, when we can't get them to see us as similarly mistreated, we can't get traction politically, but they can't get traction either. And we still have huge racism problems in this country, huge, that are deeply contested. There's been huge backlash against ethnic minorities, anti-affirmative action, anti any kind of remediation of racial discrimination. And gay people need to be visibly involved in those battles too, because if you're only about your own issues, it's not very deep, and it's not, it's great to be involved in your own issues, but you need to be involved in other people's issues too. In the middle of the 20th century, the court finally kind of revisited some of its past decisions that said that African Americans were really not the same caliber of human beings as everybody else, and said, that isn't right. And there was this idea, and it doesn't live up to the notion of equality that is now, in the 14th Amendment. And the most famous of those cases, although there were more than one, was Brown versus Board of Education. And at the time the courts decided that case, there was tremendous outcry that the courts were being, they didn't use the word activist in those days, but that they were, they used similar kinds of terms, that the court was acting beyond its powers, that it was being, imposing its own values instead of, the values that other people espoused. Interestingly, there was a major contingent of religious folks, people, particularly Southern Baptists, but also beyond that, that really said that segregation was what God intended. It's very hard to comfort somebody who feels that no matter what good they do in their life or how talented they are, that that they have suffered or are being treated badly, or even, worse, being physically injured or emotionally abused because of something they have no control over, which is their sexual orientation. But I think that the best sort of medicine or solace that somebody who faces that situation can have is by getting active, by becoming out, by finding a place, if you have to, moving out of a place where it's impossible to be safe, but and getting involved in a way that advances gay rights, because in the process of it, you learn to feel better about who you are, and you become proud of who you are, and you take action in a positive direction because of that.